Hey guys, so I decided to take this opportunity. I'm up early in the morning, and I wanted to share some thoughts about a movie that I saw, and it was an oldie but goodie, kind of like one of those movies I remember seeing a long time ago. And then when I looked at it, I was like, wait a second, is that the same movie? And I started watching it, and I'm so glad that I did. And so I'm going to talk about it from so many different perspectives. So the name of the movie is called Amish Grace. And if you don't know much about the Amish, it's funny because they get confused with Quakers and all kinds of other religions. But anyway, the Amish live a very simple life. They don't believe in all the modern things that kind of distract and take away from thinking about, their faith. And they try to stay secluded from others that are not of their faith. Because they believe that it strengthens them. And so they live just a very solitary life, almost like you can go back in time when you see them. And they make everything by hand for the most part. They use buggy and carriage, horses. They don't use automobiles. Anyway, so that's the kind of, lifestyle they have. Well, the story or the movie is based on a true story, and I'm not sure what year it happened, but there was a shooting. A guy came in and killed, shot a bunch of girls in the school inside where the Amish lived. And the reason that it's called Amish Grace is because they followed, I guess, kind of like the media and all of that, and how everyone thought, oh my gosh, what a horrible thing. It was a horrible thing. And how is, this community going to be affected and what's going to happen? Well, in the end, the Amish community came together and they actually forgave the family. Oh, because I forgot to mention that the shooter shot himself. So basically he went in, shot a bunch of girls, which killed a bunch of girls. And then then he shot himself. And so the Amish community came together to support the family of the shooter, which is something that, it's just unfathomable. Thinking that, you could actually forgive someone for something like that, right? And so that's why it's called Amish Grace. And they talked a lot about forgiveness and what it means, and that you don't necessarily forget, but that, that whatever happens, they're going to stand. They're gonna have to face God at one time or another, and that's when they'll get the judgment. But it's not up to us to provide that judgment. All right, so that's the synopsis of the movie, and it follows, I believe, a family that was dramatized. It was made up, but to kind of give a sense of what happened and kind of make it dramatic, for the viewer. But at first, the mother of one of the girls that was shot could not forgive the shooter. And in the end, I don't want to give it all away, but it has a good ending. So some takeaways from this, and of course, there's so many takeaways, but one of the takeaways that I got from watching this movie, the Amish Grace movie, is, there's mosquitoes out here and they're getting me, is that there have been times in my life when I have had to forgive others for things that they've done. And it's so much easier to forgive someone when they've done something to me versus something to my children. And I bet a lot of you can relate to that. But there was one person in particular, and that was my number two, his kindergarten teacher. For many years, I held a grudge, and I was really upset. And anytime I heard her name, I would just cringe. And in my heart, I had not forgiven her. In my heart, I held on to that hate of what she did. I didn't hate her, but I hated what she did. And I held on to a lot of negative feelings towards this teacher. And I think what hurt the most was that she was still there when my next two children went through school. It was to the point where I basically went to the principal. I said, listen, make sure that neither of my children have her, for classes, for their homeroom or whatever, because I can't handle it. And they were able to accommodate that. But is that true forgiveness, right? No, it's not. And did it hurt her? No, it didn't. It didn't affect her the least bit, but it affected me. Every time I walked through those doors, I prayed that I would not see her. Well, I remember, and I've already told the story of what happened to my number 2 in kindergarten. So I remember the first time that I saw her, years later, because there's about 2.5 years between my number 2 and my number 3. So actually 3, well, almost 3 years. So anyway, I remember the first time that I saw this teacher walking down the hall with her little ducklings. And I was wondering how she would react to me. I wondered if she would even acknowledge me. And she actually, I think, initially forgot who I was. And so she smiled, said hi, and I smiled and said hi back and kept going. I was real proud of myself. I gave myself a big pat on the back thinking, okay, I made it through. I was cordial, we're good. And then it got easier. It got easier each time that I saw her. But I wanted to so badly to take an opportunity and talk to her. I wanted to just face her as a mother to mother, because she was a mother to boys. She had one that had ADHD, and I knew that she knew what it was like to have a child with exceptionalities and anything. So I felt like I raised the bar a little bit for her, because I'm like, when you have a child with ADHD, you should understand it, right? And so, but I never did. I even wrote a letter to the principal, and I said, okay, as soon as my last child goes to the school, because I didn't want to, burn any bridges, but as soon as my last kid goes to the school, I was going to send the principal this letter. Well, it's so sad, but that I never did mail that letter, but the principal ended up not working there anymore, and for personal reasons. And so I missed that opportunity. But I'm glad now that I didn't do that, because there was some hatred in there. There was some words that were, I didn't use any profanity, but some strong words about some of the things that she did. And it was kind of healthy for me. It was very, just very healing for me to get it all down on paper, to write that letter. So that's all I needed to do. So, lesson is, if you ever have a situation like that, I would recommend trying that, writing a letter and getting it down on paper and seeing how you feel afterwards. You might be surprised. Another thing is to pray. Pray for the other person. I know. Like, what? Yeah, pray for the other person. Whoever is making you feel the way you are, pray for them. And I promise you that it will help. It will help you to heal. It will help you to get over through this, because again, the only person that you're hurting is yourself when you hang on to those thoughts and those feelings of whatever they did. And it's not going to do you any good. You can't move on without healing. So say a little prayer for the other person, and it will make a difference. It will change the way you see it and you see that person. It may not necessarily change the other person, but I've seen it happen too. So prayer works, I promise you. So again, lots of takeaways from Amish Grace. If you have not seen it, watch it. I wouldn't recommend watching it with a child unless you watch it first. But it is a family movie. I don't think it's got a mature rating on it or anything like that. They don't show the shooting. They never show blood, the entire movie. It's well written. It's beautiful. There's very touching moments, especially when the mom has to, since the Amish, they all wear the same clothing. So all the youth that were shot, the girls, were wearing the same clothing. And there was no way for the police to recognize or to ID the bodies. So they had to come and ID the body. And when the scene where the mom has to go into the morgue and identify her daughter is one of the most touching moments. So they did a really good job portraying the emotions behind it. It wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. However, it does have a good ending. It does. And I think it's in the lesson that the reporter learns from this story. And she's very much changed by it. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. It's a Monday for me. I'm not sure what day I'll be posting this, but Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Good luck on your journey as always, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.